So hi, very good morning to all of you, and very good morning Tanya, Bhargavi and Mansimar. So last topic was polity during later Vedic period. So I think that we have not covered economy during the later Vedic period, and then also society and religious practices during the later Vedic period. So let's begin with these all remaining topics, and as you studied in the last class, particularly the Rajasuya, Ashwamedha, and then Vajapaya, these are all kind of things in polity during the later Vedic period. So today uh, we'll start with the economy during economy during later Vedic period. Now listen, when it comes to the economy during the later Vedic period, at this point of time, what became very important? And earlier, in the early Vedic period, just give me a minute. So in the early Vedic period, cattle was the most important economic wealth. But at this point of time, there was a change that cattle still was an important wealth, but not like it was in the early Vedic period. So at this point of time, the most important economic wealth, it became land. So it became land, as you know, that when these early Aryans, they started, that when they discovered iron, and after discovering iron, they started to penetrate into the upper middle Gangetic plain. They cleared the dense forest. They got this fertile land, and this fertile land in turn promoted agriculture. So this in turn promoted agriculture. So now very fertile agricultural land was available to them. So that's why that this land became much more important than any other economic wealth. So even at this point of time, the battles which were fought, these battles were fought for securing a large tract of land. So securing a large tract of land earlier in early Vedic period, the battles were fought to secure large number of cattle, but at this point of time, it is for land. And in the later Vedic text, the importance of the land is highlighted from a term Rashtra. So for the very first time that this word Rashtra kind of thing is coming to picture, and it is mentioned in the later Vedic text. So land was the most important. Then what about since land is important from the perspective of the agriculture, so what all agricultural commodities were important? Barley and wheat were famous from the early Vedic period itself. From this point of time onwards, rice also, which was known as vrihi, it also became a very popular crop, and it was aggressively cultivated by the Vedic people. So please mention few words, then I'll explain further. So right, at this point of time, land became most important economic wealth. Land became most important economic wealth. Then further we mention battles at this time were fought for battles at this point of time or at this time were fought for securing large tract of land. Securing large tract of land. Then you write the importance of land is highlighted in the later Vedic text. Highlighted in the later Vedic text with the term Rashtra. with the term Rashtra. And see, what is this later Vedic? Basically, early Vedic period text was the Rig Veda and later Vedic text is the, so we are basically telling that what all texts were written during the later Vedic period. So the text which were written during the or composed during the basically composed. So the composed during the later Vedic period, it included the other Vedas. So Rig Veda was written in early, composed in early Vedic period. Then Atharva, Yajur and Samaved, they were there in the later Vedic period. So whenever I'm saying that later Vedic text, so it is referring to these three Vedas, and moreover there were many such explanatory books of these Vedas which were also composed during the later Vedic period. So later Vedic text is combinedly referring to this, and whenever we will be reading language and literature in art and culture, so there I'll be elaborating upon all the Vedas and then also extended text of the Veda, which includes Brahmana, Aranyak, Upanishad. These all kind of text we'll be talking about. So now let's get back to this part. So it was highlighted from the term Rashtra, as you have written. Then next is that what I said, that it was used for, land was used for aggressive agriculture. Then after agriculture, there also in early Vedic period we talked about the taxes. Then so what kind of taxes existed, was it there or not? So we mentioned that there was no such formal system of taxation, but involuntary form of contribution was there, which was known as bhag or bali. Here also the same kind of thing continued. So there was no formal system of taxation, and voluntary form of contribution was there, which was known as the bhag or bali. So you write that there was no formal system of taxation. There was no formal system of taxation. And people voluntarily contributed in the form of bhag or bali. In the form of bhag or bali. Exactly same thing that you have written in the early Vedic period. Now there is nothing much that we can talk over here in the that economy. Now I'll move to the very important portion during the later Vedic period. That is the society during the later Vedic period. There was hell lot of developments in the society that we need to see. So please listen one by one. We'll be writing all those things, but first listen one by one. When it comes to society during the later Vedic period, first of all, we will go by the same method, that political rights, then what kind of system was there. So society is still patriarchal. It was patriarchal, it is patriarchal, so we will not repeat it again. But when it comes to the condition of the women, then so condition of the women, so there also we talked about political rights, economic rights, then this way. So here also we need to understand, when it comes to political rights of the women, now they didn't had any political right. Why so? Because first of all, they were ousted from the, or they were kind of removed from the membership of the Sabha. Already Sabha has become a kind of a redundant assembly, but even if it was there, so women were not allowed to participate. So they are no more the member of Sabha, and moreover, another assembly which was that which women were part of, that was Vidhat. So Vidhat completely disappeared. So when it disappeared, so automatically women have no right. And then if they had any right in the Sabha, so now they are no more members of the Sabha. So at this point of time, the political rights from the women were snatched. Then what about the educational rights? So women were still allowed to participate in the educational discourses and educational discourses. So particularly the example here also we need to mention, that is the example of the Vidushi Gargi. Then she was one of the one of the very recognized intellectual of this time. Then when it comes to the marriage, so there was a change. Earlier in early Vedic period, in marriage you have seen that They were even that girl and boy both were allowed to choose their own spouses from their own community. Love marriage, Gandharva Vivah was there. But at this point of time, Gandharva Vivah was not encouraged. Then, so Gandharva Vivah was not encouraged, and then moreover there were other types of the marriages also which were not at all accepted in the society which were happening. So the general pattern of the marriage was that you go by the choice of your parents and from your community. So that started to shape up at this point of time. Then when it comes to child marriage, so here also in later Vedic period, though things are changing in the marriage scenario, but we have not come across instances of the child marriage at this point of time. Then what about the widow remarriage? So widow remarriage was still allowed under the same system, Niyog Vivah. Then, so it was still allowed under the same system of Niyog Vivah. But there are other aspects of the society that I'll be discussing. So please write society during later Vedic period. Society during later Vedic period. And we'll directly start with the status of women. Then, so status of women. So first you write that as far as political is concerned, women did not enjoyed any political right at this point of time. Did not enjoyed any political right at this point of time. At this point of time, as after comma, as they were no more member of Sabha, as they were no more member of Sabha, and Vidhat disappeared completely. And Vidhat disappeared completely. Disappeared completely. Full stop. Then change line, or you can change point also. So then you mention educational discourse was still open to women. Educational discourse was still open to women. Still open to women. Then they were allowed to participate in intellectual debates and discussions. They were allowed to participate in intellectual debates and discussions. Then further you mention intellectual debates and discussion. Then come to the marriage part. So here you mention Gandharva Vivah, the terms you have already written in the previous class, same terms we are repeating. So please mention Gandharva Vivah was not encouraged at this point of time. Gandharva Vivah was not encouraged at this point of time. Now there is another thing related to marriage which I haven't discussed till now. So let me discuss that two type of marriage, Anulom and Pratilom. So Anulom Vivaha and then Pratilom Vivaha. So Anulom and Pratilom Vivaha. Then, so Anulom, that what was this? So here a higher caste men getting married to lower class women. Then Pratilom Vivaha, higher caste women married to lower caste men. So higher caste women in the very first one. So Anulom Vivah, higher caste men getting married to lower class women. So somehow that though both are not kind of encouraged in the society, but this was tolerated in the society. This was not tolerated in the society. So higher caste women cannot, that if she is marrying to the lower caste men, so then it will lead to elimination of the both. But if this is happened, so that was somehow accommodated. Though none of them are encouraged, but that's how some of this was accommodated, but this was not at all allowed in the society. So Anulom Vivah and Pratilom Vivah. So you can mention this also, that there were instances of Anulom and Pratilom marriages. Anulom and Pratilom marriages. Then further you mention Anulom and Pratilom marriages. You can mention what I have written on the board. What was Anulom? So in Anulom you write higher caste men married to lower caste women. Married to lower caste women. Then in Pratilom you write higher caste women getting married to lower caste men. Lower caste men. Then mention though none of the marriages were encouraged, but Anulom was accommodated. Anulom was accommodated. Full stop. Then after this marriage part, next you write is child marriage and then also widow remarriage, and then I'll tell something else about the society. So please mention that in later Vedic period also, after full stop, in later Vedic period also, no instance of child marriage has come to light. No instance of child marriage has come to light. Full stop. Widow remarriage continued under Niyog Vivaha. Widow remarriage continued under Niyog Vivaha. You have written this in the earlier class. Now let's come to the very important discussion associated with the society. Now listen, this Rigved which I said to you, and I also mentioned today that very elaborately we'll be reading about the Rigved over there in the language and literature, but try to understand. When you look at the Rigved, so there are 10 such mandals of the Rigved. You can say 10 parts. For your understanding, mandal you can say that 10 parts. So these 10 mandalas of the Rigved, out of this 10 mandal of Rigved, not all of them were composed during the early Vedic period. So mandal number 2 to 7, they are the oldest, and 1, 8, 9, 10, they would be there in the later Vedic period. So basically that in the later Vedic period, this mandal number 10 which was composed, For the time being, you understand that mandal number 10 is the one which we are going to talk about. So in mandal number 10, what was mentioned, that in mandal number 10 they mentioned a theory. Name of the theory is the Purusha Shukti theory. I'll be writing this on the board. I know that sometimes spellings could be difficult and pronunciations could be difficult, that what I am saying may not be reaching to you. Once I write it on the board, so with the spelling it is very clear to you that what I am trying to mention. So under mandal number 10 of Rigved, a Purush Shukti is there, Purush Shukti, and in this Purush Shukti it is mentioned to divide the society into four Varnas on the basis of birth. So on the basis of birth, and on the basis of birth means that four such divisions came up. This is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. And on the basis of birth means that if suppose that I am a Brahmin, so my son would also be Brahmin, his son would also be Brahmin, and his son would also be Brahmin. So means that by birth your caste would be decided. Earlier in the early Vedic period, we didn't mention this thing, but you just listen. There was no such kind of system where you get a caste, you get a varna from the birth. It was your profession. That if you're doing an intellectual work, you are called as Brahmin. If you are participating in the fight, if you are warlord, you are participating in fight, going for the military campaign, so then you are a Kshatriya. You are involved in a trader, farming community, so then you are a Vaishya. So these all kind of profession-wise division of people was there. But at this point of time onwards, that if I am an intellectual, my son would also be intellectual. Meaning is that if I'm a Brahmin, so my son would also be Brahmin. His son would also be Brahmin. So ascriptive things got associated at this point of time. Ascription, this is what we call that the things that you get from the birth, it is ascriptive. For example, that you get your caste, that your caste is from the birth. Your name is not something that you get by the birth. It is the given by your parents. It's the choice of your parents. But what you get by your birth is your caste, your religion. Then, so these are the ascriptive things. Then, so ascriptive things. So they said to divide the society on the basis of the birth into four categories, and these categories were Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Then they further gave explanation that what is the belief that how Brahmans emerged, how Kshatriyas, Vaishya and Sudras emerged. So to Brahman they said that Brahman emerged from the mouth of the primeval man. And basically this primeval man is referred as the Adi Brahma. Then second, Kshatriya is believed to be emerging from the shoulders and chest of the primeval man, Adi Brahma. Then Vaishya emerged from the thighs of the primeval man, and Shudra from the feet of the primeval man. So this kind of explanation was given in the Purusha Shukti of 10th Mandal of Rigved. So let me write these technical words on the board. So first of all, mandal. Then this is one word which I mentioned. Then what I mentioned, Purusha Shukti. So Purusha Sukti. This I mentioned, and then Adi Brahma I'll be writing. So first you write by using these two words. Change paragraph and then you mention. In the 10th mandal of Rigved, in the 10th mandal of Rigved, 10th mandal of Rigved, in the 10th mandal of Rigved, under Purush Shukti, it was mentioned to divide society. It was mentioned to divide society into four varnas, on the basis of birth. Into four varnas on the basis of birth. That is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. So Brahman emerged, and explanation also I'm writing. So emerged from the mouth of primeval man. If you want to write, you can write Adi Brahma. Then Kshatriya emerged from shoulders and chest of primeval man. Vaishya emerged from thigh, and Shudra emerged from feet of primeval man. So this kind of explanation is mentioned. You can write. So I hope that now you must have written. So now listen. So this division was there, that Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Then this question must be arising in your mind, that what about this, that Shudra, which is mentioned over here, so does it mean untouchable? No, not at this point of time. Then, so not at this point of time that this kind of thing is there, that they are untouchables. Then, so this untouchability kind of thing was in fact not associated at this point of time. It will emerge slowly later on. Then, so slowly it will emerge later on. But here, this just meant that they are the, it's a strata, it's a stratification of the society, and in this stratification of the society, the lower rung is the Shudra, and lower rung is the Shudra, and moreover, it also defines their job. Then, so it also defines their job, that if the Shudra is there, so they will be doing the cleaning and cleaning kind of thing. Then also the menial jobs means they will be doing. Then Vaishyas, they will be doing the trading, farming activity. Kshatriyas, fighting activity. Then and then Brahmin, intellectual activity. But the change from the previous period is that previously it was not ascriptive, and I explained that, which means if it was not expressive, that to be called as the Brahmin you needed to be intellectual. It doesn't matter that you are born with a parent, that parent is intellectual. If you are not intellectual, so you cannot be Brahmin. But at this point of time, since your father is Brahmin, so you will be a Brahmin, even if you have a very lower IQ. So this is the division. Then Brahmins did not stop over here, but they also came up with that many other concepts at this point of time. So one of the very important concept which was there at this point of time, not the concept, but the one such important tenet of the Hinduism. Then, so important tenet of the Hinduism, the concept of the Gotra. And I know this concept of the Gotra is very, that people, particularly North India and Central India and West India also, North, Central, West India and Eastern part of the country, they are well aware with the Gotra concept. But those who are in the South, not all the places in the South, particularly in Tamil Nadu, this is non-existent. That they don't talk about the Gotra concept. And Kerala also, there are instances in the Karnataka where people do follow some Gotra system in Karnataka and Andhra also, but it is totally non-existent over there in the Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So try to understand that what is this Gotra. This Gotra concept was there from the beginning itself, but it was further clarified at this point of time. So the Gotra concept was further consolidated, and under this Gotra concept, it was What is this? So what is Gotra? So lineage from a common ancestor. Then so lineage from a common ancestor, and moreover, Brahmins advised at this point of time exogamy of Gotra in the matters of matrimonial alliance. Then so this Gotra, and what is the meaning of the Gotra? Lineage from a common ancestor. Lineage from a common ancestor. Then lineage from a common ancestor. That's the meaning of the Gotra. And what Brahmins advised at this point of time, exogamy of Gotra in matrimonial alliances. Exogamy of Gotra in matrimonial alliances. Then, so what do we understand by exogamy? Those who are from north, they will be very much aware about this one, that Hindi में बोलो तो sagotra. Sagotra means that same gotra. Then so sagotra means that people of the same gotra, they cannot marry each other. That is the proscription. So not prescription, proscription means that they cannot marry. So for example, let's suppose a girl is there from the Bharadwaj Gotra and boy is also from the Bharadwaj Gotra. Then so going by this concept, they cannot marry. If a girl is from Kashyap Gotra, boy is also from Kashyap Gotra, so then it is advised that they must not marry. But if they belong to different Gotra, then so if they belong to Kashyap and Sandilya, it is favorable, they can do. Then so these kind of concepts were forwarded at this point of time, that exogamy of the Gotra in matrimonial alliance, and this was a type of a system which when introduced, it is still very robust in this country, and still wherever the love marriages are not happening, when the arranged marriages are happening, so people do give consideration to this Gotra. Then so people do give consideration to the Gotra. If the Gotras are similar, so they will not marry, and then if Gotras are dissimilar, so then marriage can happen. So please mention that Gotra, which means lineage from a common ancestor, Gotra, which means lineage from a common ancestor, was further consolidated, Gotra concept was further consolidated at this point of time. Was further consolidated at this point of time. Was further consolidated at this point of time. Then you write, Brahmins advised exogamy of Gotra. Brahmins advised exogamy of Gotra in the matters of matrimonial alliance. In the matters of matrimonial alliance. In the matters of matrimonial alliance. Then, so Gotra is the one such thing which was consolidated at this point of time. Moreover, there are many other such rituals which were further consolidated at this point of time, and one of the very important ritual of the Hinduism, and which is still the part of the Hinduism. So it emerged in the later Vedic period, and this is 16 samskar. Then so 16 samskar or 16 samskar. So Brahmins also further came up with this concept of the 16 samskar or 16 samskar. Now it is said that in Hinduism that if you are a born Hindu, so then you will have to follow this 16 samskar, and some of the samskar I'm mentioning, not all of them you need to remember, but some of the samskar you need to remember. So for example, that when a child is born, then so child is born, so you give a name to the child. So that is called as the Namakarana Samskar. It's a one of the such a samskar. Then for the very first time when the child is having solid food, then so solid food, and I hope you must have seen in your families also. So that particular kind of ritual is called as the Anna Prasan Samskar. Then so Anna Prasan Samskar. Then there is a for the very first time when the child is going bald. Then so when the child is going bald means that the hairs of the child are offered to the god. So there are different names in the different parts of the country, but original Sanskrit name of this samskar was the Chuda Karad Samskar. Then so Chuda Karad Samskar. Some places people say Mundan Samskar. Then another samskar, important one, this is the most important one, so that is Upanayan Samskar. What is Upanayan Samskar? Upanayan Samskar is sacred thread ceremony. And most of you must have observed, many of your Brahmin friends, that, and particularly the males, so what they do, that they are wearing a kind of a thread, that one such sacred thread in their body. And whenever you are seeing them going to the loo, so what they are doing, that they are putting that thread into their ears. Then so they are making a roll around their ears, and then they, after coming from the loo, they wash their hand, and then they recorrect the thread position. Then so this is the sacred thread ceremony, then that they are wearing this thread after the sacred thread ceremony, which is the Upanayan Samskar. So other people also do in Hinduism, like Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, they also do, but they are not so fixed about that all the time they would be wearing this. And most of the time nowadays what is happening, this Upnayam Sanskar happens just before the marriage. Then so in most of the families, that they conduct it just before the marriage. And the importance, that if you can't that if you haven't had Upanayan Samskar, so you cannot get married. Then so before your marriage you need to get it done, that Upanayan Samskar. So since I said to you that Upanayan Samskar before the marriage, but one of the very important samskar in Hinduism is the marriage samskar, Vivaha Samskar. So Vivaha Samskar, it is also one of the very important samskar. So after Vivaha Samskar, there are many other samskar that would happen then. So let's kind of that do not kind of move into the other names, but let's come to the last samskar, which is the Antyesti Samskar. Antyesti. So Antyesti is that after the death, this is one samskar that you will not do. That as a person you will not do. Your family is responsible for that. So they will be doing the last rite of yours according to the Hindu rituals. So the last rites of the dead person. So it is said that a Hindu person in his life must have this 16 samskar. So must have this 16 samskar. And many a times that nowadays you will be seeing that not all the people that go through all the 16 samskar, but there are few which people don't skip, particularly Upanayan and then this particular marriage and Antyesti. So Vivaha, Upanayan and Antyesti, these are the very important ones. Nowadays people do kind of name their children's on the basis of that what they see in the Facebook, what they, people are trying to find out new names then, and they are so kind of what I'll say, that they are so not frustrated I'll say, but fed up with the old names, then fed up with the old names. And nowadays people don't want to name their children as Rahul because it is one such very unlucky name in the country. I have seen only successful person with this name is Rahul Bajaj, then a corporate person. But otherwise, wherever I see this name, they have just doomed the name of their fathers. And one very recently entered into the Big Boss. Then so and his father was such a astound politician. And then what to say about this person, let's not go into this. So now where I was telling you about these all things. Let me tell you one more such important thing associated with this samskar, that in Hinduism you will be reading later on when you'll be reading philosophy and that philosophy and salvation concept. So it is believed that you must go through these all solar samskar, 16 samskar, and that's how one gets closer to the uh, moksha. That then you can strive for the moksha. If at all you miss some of the important samskars, so then you cannot attain moksha. And you know what is this? So you cannot miss vivaha samskar. If you're not married, so you cannot attain moksha. This is what is the concept. Then, so if you want to strive for the moksha, so you must go through the vivaha samskar also. It's a very important samskar. So I hope you all must be happy with this one. चलो कम से कम कुछ तो है कि कोई विवाह संस्कार को बढ़ावा दे रहा है. So this is a very important samskar. There are many such theories involved with it, but since we have paucity of time, and not just the paucity of time, I do want to talk about this in very detail, but that is not at all required. कभी हम लोग मिलेंगे ऐसे बिना किसी क्लास के. So then you guys, whoever have this kind of questions or who want to know, we will be having a discussion. But here we will have to be very particular that in this 10 to 11 classes, what from exam perspective we need to see. Many times it happens that कि कुछ बताते वक्त लगता है कि थोड़ा सा और बता देते तो अच्छा होता. But I also need to restrain myself related to this topic because जो important है वो पढ़ लिया तुमने और आगे जो बताऊंगा वो सिर्फ अपना knowledge बढ़ाने के चक्कर में होगा. So and then already today is the, I think it is the 5th class or 4th class. Let me see. So today is the 5th class and by this time I must have been complete with the पिछली क्लास में कंप्लीट हो जाना चाहिए था ये लेटर वैदिक पीरियड. उसके पहले भी बहुत सारे बैचेस में तो पहले ही हो जाता था. सो प्लीज राइट, आई विल नॉट डिस्कस फर्दर. So what you have mentioned, these all things, and then Mandala Purushukti. So you write after this Gotra. So Samskar part you write, and if at all any question is there, so please send. So you write, Brahmins also consolidated the concept of consolidated the concept of 16 samskar. 16 samskar. Samskar. Some of important are Upanayan, Samskar, and this is sacred thread ceremony. Sacred thread ceremony and Vivah Samskar, marriage ceremony, then Antyeshti, so this is last rite, let me write the ones which I discussed also. So please mention this, the one which you know, Annaprasan and Namakarad. So these are also the important ones. And these are the ones which you must have heard somewhere down the line. Then you must have seen that particularly if you are from Delhi area or any part of the North India, that there is this after marriage ladies go through this God Bharai Samskar. Okay? So these all kind of that these are the different rituals. Then so God Bharai Samskar. Then there are many other also that, for example, that for the first time when the lady is conceiving, a child. So that is known as the Garbhadhan Samskar. So this way many samskars are there. You don't need to remember all of them. But very often which is asked in the exam is the Upanayan Samskar. So this is the most important that you need to remember. Now, moving away from this part, the last thing that I need to discuss in the society at this point of time is that particularly the emergence of the ashram vyavastha at this point of time. So emergence of the ashram vyavastha, though there are 4 stages of the ashram, but in the later Vedic period only 3 were consolidated or 3 were in the reality, and the 4th stage of the ashram, it happened in the Buddha's age. So please write the first 3 stages of ashrama system. The first 3 stages of ashrama system came to reality. Ashram system came to reality at this point of time. So let me write this ashram system. So what were these ashrams? 3 ashrams which were there at this point of time. So first one, Brahmacharya. Second, Grihastha. And third, Vanaprastha. So Brahmacharya ashram, it is celibacy period. And study period, you can say. And study period. Then Grihastha is the married life and its responsibility. And then what is Vanaprastha? Partial retirement from householder's life to attain wisdom. So partial retirement from householder's life to attain wisdom. So overall there are 4 stages in the ashram, but in later Vedic period only these 3 stages were in the reality. So please write this one. I'll tell you about the 4th here only, but उसमें बस याद रखना कि it is not the part of the later Vedic. You write these 3 first. So I hope you have written. Now listen, that Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha after this one. So the 4th one, listen, 4th one was not, it didn't came to picture at this point of time, but this 4th one was the sannyas, and it was consolidated just after the end of the later Vedic period, particularly in the Buddha's and Mahavira's age. Then, so what is this sannyas? It is the complete retirement from the householder's life to attain enlightenment, not the wisdom. So यहाँ पे नोट करके लिख लो, ठीक है? What you can do, that you can write note, and in note you write sannyas. and in this you write complete retirement from householder's life to attain enlightenment to attain enlightenment and then here only in brackets you write came to reality at the time of Buddha came to reality at the time of Buddha and Mahavir. You can also add Mahavir. So came to reality at the time of Buddha and Mahavir. So this is all about the society that I needed to talk about. Now the last part of the later Vedic period, it is the religious practices during the later Vedic period. Try to listen, understand also. So listen, the early Vedic gods like Indra, Agni, Varun, Mitra and those other also which I mentioned, so they lost their former importance. I don't mean to say that they are not important, but earlier they were very important. Now they are not the most important. Then so the early Vedic gods, these personified elements of the nature, Indra, Agni, Varun and Mitra, etc., they lost their former importance, and the most important god at this point of time who came to reality, not reality but came to in picture, was Brahma, then Prajapati. So Prajapati, who was also referred as the Brahma, and Prajapati, meaning of this word is the creator of the universe. So Prajapati or Brahma became the most important god, and moreover, two more gods emerged at this point of time as the important gods. These gods were Rudra and Vishnu. So Rudra and Vishnu also emerged as the two very important gods at this point of time. So please mention religious practices during later Vedic period. So this is your heading, and then in this heading you write religious practices during later Vedic period. The early Vedic gods like Indra, Agni, Varun, etc. Indra, Agni, Varun, etc. lost their former importance. And at this point of time, Prajapati or Brahma, and in brackets you write creator of the universe, emerged as the most important the most important, emerged as the most important god. Then most important god. Then further you mention, moreover, Rudra and Vishnu, Rudra and Vishnu also emerged as important gods. Also emerged as important gods. Also emerged as important gods. Done? Then now listen. So after this one, the discussion that we had over there in the early Vedic period, that is the purpose of the worship, the mode of the worship. Then, so when it comes to the mode of worship, so when it comes to the mode of worship in the later Vedic period, it was similar. And what is this? So with the recitation of the mantra and prayers, this is one method. Offering sacrifices, another method. Performance of yajna, another method. So these all kind of methods were followed for that not followed, that it was the mode of the worship. But when it comes to the objective of the worship, so here also there was so much of similarity. I can say that till the rear end of the later Vedic period, basically that it was material gain and not for the spiritual growth. But by the end of the later Vedic period, there were some progressive people from that progressive section of the society. They started to voice about that the worship purpose must also include spiritualism. So there was a movement regarding that spiritualism must be recognized as the most important or one of the very important objectives of the worship. So this movement started to incorporate spiritualism, or kind of that spiritualism is the most important aspect. But majority period, and here majority does not mean that 51% or 60%, near about till you can say that till the time of the you can say that 1000 BC till 600 BC, it was the material gain which was the most important objective of the worship. Only in the last century of the later Vedic period, this kind of movement for the spiritualism or progressive movement started. So please write, the mode of worship, the mode of worship, the mode of worship at this point of time, the mode of worship at this point of time was through prayers, recitation of mantra, prayers, recitation of mantra, mantra, performance of yajna, performance of yajna, performance of yajna, and offering sacrifices, and offering sacrifices, offering sacrifices. Then further you mention offering sacrifices, full stop. The objective of the worship, the objective of the worship, the objective of the worship was to seek material gain, wealth and prosperity, basically material gain, wealth and prosperity, but it was not for spiritualism, but it was not for spiritualism. but it was not for spiritualism. Full stop. Then you write, in the later half of the later Vedic period, in the later half of the later Vedic period, or rear end you can mention, ज़्यादा better होगा. In the rear end of later Vedic period, in the rear end of later Vedic period, the progressive section of the society, the progressive section of society started reform movements, whereby they emphasized spiritualism, to be the most important objective of the worship. So this is what happened at this point of time, that when later Vedic period was about to end. Now, after this topic, you see that as per the chronology, we have what we have mentioned, 1000 BC to 6th century BC, particularly till the time of arrival of the Buddha. So it was later Vedic period. But with the arrival of the Buddha, the 6th century BC, a new age started, and this new age is particularly considered as the rise of the religious movement in India. So listen, two words about this one, two sentences about this one, because we are not going to take up this particular topic over here. It is a separate topic over there in the art and culture. So there we are not just going to talk about the Buddhism and Jainism, but also Ajivika, which emerged at this point of time as a philosophy. Then we will also be talking about the Parsi religion. So some of the important religions from the exam perspective. Moreover, I will also be talking about the philosophies of India, which includes the orthodox and heterodox philosophies. So listen, 6th century BC was important from the important from many points in the Indian ancient history, because it was the rise of the religious movement. So Buddhism started to arise, then Jainism, whose tenets were already there from very long time, but it was given formal shape by Vardhaman Mahavir, who was also the contemporary of the Buddha. Then, so these things will be seen. Then 6th century BC, at the same point of time when there is this Buddhist and Jainism movement, so at the same point of time there is also one big political change is happening in Indian subcontinent, and that is the rise of the 16 Mahajanpad. Then, so rise of the 16 Mahajanpad. What were these Mahajanpad? Going by the name Maha means that great, and Janpad means that a territory. Then so great territories. Then so great territories or very bigger territories. So basically the meaning of the word Mahajanpad in common understanding is that big territorial states. Then so these were big territorial states which emerged. So in the 6th century BC, as such, 16 big territorial states emerged in India, and these big territorial states, one by one, I'll be also locating it on the map. Moreover, the most important is the Magad, whose history we are going to read, and Magad would be the one which would be annexing all the other Mahajanpad over the period. Then, so let's begin with I'm not starting with the Buddhism, Jainism, because I said to you in art and culture we'll be reading. So here, let's begin with the rise of So please mention rise of 16 Mahajanpad. Rise of 16 Mahajanpad, and first you write some definitions about this Mahajanpad. So please mention By the 6th century BC, by the 6th century BC, 6th century BC, 16 Mahajanpads, 16 Mahajanpads emerged, 16 Mahajanpads emerged in India. Then further you mentioned 16 Mahajanpads emerged in India. Mahajanpads were big territorial state, big territorial states, big territorial states with with well-established system of with well-established system of administration, with well-established system of administration, with well-established system of administration. Done. Then further you write, moreover, they were also known for having large standing armies, large standing army. They were also known for having large standing army. Large standing army. So now since I have started creating this map, so let me complete this map kind of thing, because here we are going to see those all Mahajanpads. So you also, if you are comfortable till this point of time in creating the map of India, so please start creating the map of India. I am creating it, but it will take a little bit of time. So you don't need to create entire map, but at least this part, this much half part, at least this half part, and then here the territory in the Pakistan also you need to create. The map seems to be something little bit skewed. So let me bring it down further. So now we need to create these all Mahajanpads over here, and northeast part is very small I have created. इतना भी छोटा नहीं है northeast. Chalo. So let's begin with that, those Mahajanpads which were there. So one thing you need to do, try to create this river, and this river would be, one would be the Ganga, and then Yamuna. So Ganga, Yamuna, these two at least you create. Then later I will create one more river. So, or let me create it first. So another river. And this river is Son. So these Mahajanpads, 16 Mahajanpads which were there. So the one which you all know very well, it is the Magad. Then, so please write Magad, and I will also be mentioning not only the Mahajanpads, but at the same point of time their capitals also. So the capital of Magad, I am leaving it to you, or let me write it. So capital of Magad, mostly people will say Patliputra, I know, but capital in the beginning was the Rajagriha. So we are writing the initial capital, Rajagriha. Then Magad, here, this area, there was this Mahajanpad of Ang. Ang capital was, the name was Champa. Then the northern part of the Bihar, this area, northern Bihar, this was the Vajji. Vajji, and Vajji capital was Vaishali. Vajji capital was Vaishali. Then at the border of the UP, Nepal and Bihar, there is this Mahajanpad, Malla. Malla Mahajanpad, and capital of the Malla Mahajanpad was Kushinagar. Then this confluence of the rivers, and which all rivers? Ganga, Yamuna. There is a one more mythical, Saraswati. So this confluence is the Allahabad, and Allahabad. So this area is the Vats Mahajanpad. Vats, and the capital of Vats was Kausambi. Nowadays, that the adjoining district of the Allahabad is Kausambi. Then over here, in between, that just you move 120 kilometers from Allahabad, you are at Varanasi. So Varanasi, which Mahajanpad over here? Kasi. So this is the Kasi Mahajanpad, and Kasi, you know, capital Banaras. Then if you look that Lucknow would be somewhere over here, and then Lucknow, and then over here in the middle you will find at this area that Ayodhya area. So Ayodhya area, so let me create this Mahajanpad at this place I am creating. So I'm writing it over here so that it must be visible to you. So this Mahajanpad was Kosala. So Kosala was the Mahajanpad area of the Ayodhya, and the capital of Kosala was Saket. It is the oldest name of the Ayodhya, Saket. Then after this, if you move, if this is Allahabad, if you move little down towards the western direction, so at this place you are there with the Jhansi area, then Jhansi, Lalitpur, these all areas. So Jhansi, Lalitpur area is the Chedi Mahajanpad. Chedi Mahajanpad, and the capital of the Chedi Mahajanpad was Suktimati. Then closer to Delhi, We are at the banks of river Yamuna. So on the banks of river Yamuna, now here we have Mathura area, and Mathura was the Surasen Mahajanpad. Surasen Mahajanpad, and capital Mathura. Surasen Mahajanpad, capital was Mathura. Then what about Delhi? So Delhi, including the boiling regions of the country at this point of time, particularly that in and around area of the Delhi. So Delhi, Panipat, Sonipat, Karnal, these all area. So this is our Mahajanpad of the Kuru, going till Haryana. So Kuru Mahajanpad. Kuru. And Kuru was, capital was Hastinapur. Kuru capital was Hastinapur. Then in between this Ganga and Yamuna river, and when you move from Delhi towards that UP area in the upward direction, you have Meerut. So in and around Meerut area, there was this Mahajanpad of Panchal. And the capital of Panchal was Kampilya. Some places you will find that Kampilya is also mentioned as the Ahichhatra. So I'm separately also writing that kuch jagah pe Kampilya will also be, some places it is capital is mentioned as Ahichhatra. For example, that this Kosala which I have mentioned, iska bhi kuch jagah pe that there are two capitals. So here only I am mentioning that there are two capitals. The one was the Shravasti and then second Saket. Saket already you have mentioned. So Shravasti and Saket. Now let's look at the Mahajanpad, which is this area in Rajasthan, the capital of the Rajasthan, Jaipur area. So this was the Matsya Mahajanpad. Matsya Mahajanpad. And the capital of the Matsya was Viratnagar. Capital was Viratnagar. Then let's move to the Pakistan part. So in the Pakistan, this is one of the most fertile grounds of the Pakistan in Punjab. This was the Gandhar Mahajanpad. Gandhar Mahajanpad. Capital was Takshashila. Then this Mahajanpad that borders of the Pakistan and Afghanistan. So this is the Kamboj. Kamboj, and capital is Rajapura. Rajapura. Then in Maharashtra, on the banks of river Godavari, the Mahajanpad Asmak, and capital was Potana. And then the last Mahajanpad over here in Madhya Pradesh, closer to Maharashtra. So Madhya Pradesh closer to Maharashtra, that is Avanti. And there were two capitals of Avanti. So one is Ujjain, and the second is, which is basically, this capital was there in the area of Telangana, Maheshmati. So historical name in the movie, not the movie name in the history. So these are the 16 Mahajanpads. Yes, these are the 16 Mahajanpads that you need to know with their capital. So I'll give you 5 minutes to create this diagram. Yes, 5 minutes I'm giving you. So I know that I also took a little bit of time, but where if at all at any place, if you have a spelling confusion, so you can ask me. Or any other confusion related to this topic, you can ask. And when it comes to this topic, very frequently the questions are asked from this topic, particularly that matchmaking questions. Then, so you would be asked that this is the name of the Mahajanpad and their capitals you need to match. But one new nature of the question which has started to come at this point of time, Abhi very recently. So what they are asking that not only earlier they were asking about the capitals, but now they are also asking in which area this Mahajanpad was located. Then moreover, Mahajanpads are also asked from the perspective that which of the following Mahajanpads were associated with the life of the Buddha. This was in fact a question in 2014, and this was a question which was exactly repeated question in the 2015. So Mahajanpads are important in one form or other form. Some innovative questions are created by the UPSC, not just the capital matchmaking, but innovative questions. So you need to remember the areas also where they are located. And if you are remembering these Mahajanpads on the map, so you will be able to remember that in that which area they are closer to. And then in paper, if you are getting options, so you will be able to identify it. For example, when we talk about Magad, so Magad is the area of the Patna, Hajipur, in and around. Then this Ang Mahajanpad, it is also the border part of the Bihar and Bengal. So border part of the Bihar and Bengal, basically Bhagalpur, Munger, these all kind of district. Then so Bhagalpur, Munger. Then some places I told you that which area. For example, Vats Mahajanpad. So Vats was the Allahabad ke aspas ka area. Then Kosal Mahajanpad, it is from Ayodhya to Shravasti. Then Ayodhya to Shravasti, this is the Kosal Mahajanpad. Then Malla Mahajanpad, I said to you, the area of the Malla Mahajanpad was tri-junction of UP, Bihar and Nepal. Means that it is a border area. Then, and in fact, अगर जो पेपर में पूछता है, so Kushinagar itself is a modern district that in the UP. Then, so it is a district in the UP, so you can go with the Kushinagar itself is a district where this Malla Mahajanpad was there. Then what about some other places? Every place I have mentioned that which area is there. Only you needed to pay heed to the same. For example, when I was talking about Sorasen is that in and around area of the Mathura. So what all areas are there closer to Mathura? Vrindavan, Govardhan, Barsana. So these all areas where Sorasen Mahajanpad. Then I mentioned to you that Chedi Mahajanpad is Lalitpur and Jhansi area. Then, so that is Chedi Mahajanpad. Then, so Chedi Mahajanpad. Then I mentioned you Panchal, which area is Panchal? Panchal is the Meerut Bareilly area. That stretch from the Meerut Bareilly, it is the Panchal area. Then this कुरु महाजनपद दिल्ली से लेके पूरा हरियाणा लगभग कुरुक्षेत्र तक. Then so Delhi to Kurukshetra is the this Kuru Mahajanpad. Then capital was Hastinapur. Then Gandhara. So Gandhara is the Punjab area of the Pakistan. And then Kamboj is the this tri-junction of Pakistan, Afghanistan and Kashmir. Asmak in Maharashtra on the banks of river Godavari, and then Ujjain, present day Ujjain area if you start with. So Ujjain till Hyderabad. This stretch was the Avanti. Then so this was the stretch of the Avanti. And then Matsya Mahajanpad was area in and around of the Jaipur, and which all areas come in and around of Jaipur? Ajmer closer to Jaipur. Then you have Kishangarh closer to Jaipur, and then Alwar closer to Jaipur. So this area was the Matsya Mahajanpad. Then so this way you need to remember the areas also. Then so this way you need to remember areas also, and if at all if you get a question, so you must not be marking any such question on this topic incorrect. So this is all about the map. Now, so listen, I hope that you have, I have instructed to remove the camera from the map. I have given you enough time to create it. So now listen, another thing, that from where we do get information about this Mahajanpad. We do get information about these all Mahajanpads from the Buddhist and Jain books. Then so Buddhist and Jain books, that their emergence is mentioned over there in the Buddhist and Jain books, and some of the books I'm mentioning over here which have mentioned about the origin of this Mahajanpads. So these books are the two books of the Buddhism and one book of the Jainism. So you write that the initial Mahajanpad history can be traced from Buddhist and Jain books like Anguttar Nikay, and Mahavastu of Buddhism. Anguttar Nikay and Mahavastu of Buddhism. So these two are the Buddhist book. And Bhagavati Sutra of Jainism. So Anguttar Nikay and Mahavastu of Buddhism and Bhagavati Sutra of Jainism. So this is all about the traces. Now, listen little bit. When we talk about the Mahajanpad history, so initially, listen. Now let's look at the map. So this Kasi, that Banaras area, and the Kosala, where I have mentioned Kosala here. So Kasi and Kosala, these two. Initially, these two were very important, and then they were very rich. But within a short period of that, not short period, over the period of time, Magad emerged as the most powerful Mahajanpad. Then, so Magad emerged as the most powerful Mahajanpad, and by the time of the arrival of the Asoka, all the Mahajanpads were under the control of the Magad. Then, so we need to mention that rise of Magad as the most important or most powerful Mahajanpad. So you write a subheading that is rise of Magad as most powerful Mahajanpad. Rise of Magad as most powerful Mahajanpad. Then, so listen, what I said, initially Kasi and Kosal were very rich, powerful also, but slowly this Magad emerged. So we will try to list out the reasons that why Magad became very powerful. But first you write little bit, one sentence about the Kasi and Kosal. So you write, initially Kasi and Kosala were the most powerful. Initially Kasi and Kosala were the most powerful and rich Mahajanpads. Most powerful and rich Mahajanpad. But but over the period, Magad emerged, as the most powerful Mahajanpad. Over the period, Magad emerged as the most powerful Mahajanpad. Most powerful Mahajanpad. Then you mention its reason are as follows. So rise of its powerfulness is as follows. So reasons are as follows. So one by one we'll be looking at these all reasons. Then, so now let me tell you a few things in this map itself, and please have a look on the map. So I will create with the other pen. I'm not deleting anything or erasing anything. So first of all, the Magad capital which I mentioned, Rajagriha. Then so Rajagriha, that is the Magad, and Rajagriha capital, it was a strategic location because Rajagriha was surrounded with 5 mountains. So whenever your capital is surrounded by 5 mountains or such mountains, so obviously it increases the safety and security of your capital. Then so its capital Rajagriha was surrounded with the 5 mountains, which further increase the safety and security of the capital. Then another thing, that when you look at the Magad, so Magad was it was the bed of many rivers. Then bed of Ganga, Yamuna, that already Ganga is there, and then here Son river, and then Kasi, Kosi, there are so many rivers. So at that point of time these rivers were kind of a boon to the Magad. Then so not for the flood but boon to the Magad, because these rivers were used by the Magadhan people for the trade and communication. Then so trade and communication, trade channels. So these rivers, moreover, since they were Himalayan rivers, so these Himalayan rivers are bringing so much of silt, moraine, which are very fertile in nature. So this area was very fertile. Then agricultural productivity was high, and since it is a subtropical area, then so subtropical area and rainforest, that subtropical rainforest are there. So forest was densely over here, and when you will be reading the geography, so you will come to know about that one of the finest quality of the woods, they are found in the monsoonal forest, not the evergreen forest. In evergreen forest, you will find the woods which are growing very fast, the trees which are growing very fast. But when you analyze their timber, so their timber is not one of the greatest quality. But the greatest quality of the timber you will find over here in the monsoonal forest, and that too moist deciduous monsoonal forest. I know that maybe some of the batches, that if geography has started, so maybe you will be aware with these all terms, but otherwise don't be fearful of these terms which I'm using, that moist deciduous monsoon forest. Over the period you will be master of this one, okay? And so these are the one of the finest timbers, and since it was that nature of the area, so dense forest was there, and from this dense forest they got very good quality timber. Then another thing, that not just the timber and strategic location and the rivers, but Magad is also very important from the perspective that the India's iron mine, the capital of the India's iron is the Chota Nagpur Plateau, and that is under the Magad area. So from the Chota Nagpur Plateau, Magad got huge reservoir of iron, and you know, iron was this point of time in the ancient history, it was a magical metal. Then so magical metal, so with the iron they created very good quality tools, and they build a very strong army. Then so they build a very strong army, and moreover the rulers of the Magad, they were enterprising then, and they were business oriented, they were not the orthodox people. Then so somehow somewhere I do, when I'm smiling na, so I hope that you guys must be getting कि कुछ तो political पे आएगा ये, ठीक है? आज दिन भर तो बात नहीं किया इसने. So yes, really, I just, that let me tell you something about the Magad rulers. That Magad rulers were, they were not at all concerned with the all the systems in the society which prohibits their business and enterprise. Then, and this is how they were growing, and they became very powerful. And it was last but not the least factor for responsible for the rise of the Magad as the most powerful most powerful Mahajanpad. So one more thing I need to tell you related to this business and everything. So Magad rulers were unorthodox. Then they were unorthodox. They were not following the orthodox practices. And here the meaning of the unorthodox is that they did not pay heed to all the rules and regulation in the religious code of conduct which was prevalent at this point of time, which was against their trade and business. For example, let's just listen. Please don't write this thing. It is not required over here. Buddhism, Jainism, again I'll be referring to this part. So just listen that at this point of time, that Hindu society or the Vedic society was ordained by the Dharma Shastra. Dharma Shastra were the book which were according to which that you needed to operate in your life. So according to the Dharma Shastra, there were some inhibitions on the people. What were these inhibitions? That one cannot trade through liquid off liquid. Then so one cannot trade through liquid and off liquid. So means that going by this particular provision of the Dharma Shastra, that you cannot use river channels for doing the trade. But Magad rulers found that river channels as the easier ways. They don't need to create the roads, and if they are using already existing river channels which are full of the water, so why the hell they will create a road? They will use the river channel, they will save some money. So they were using river channel. But in the Dharma Shastra, it was not advised that for trade you will be using the river channel. Then second, trade of liquid means that you cannot sell any kind of liquid. So going by this concept, you cannot sell even the milk produce. Yes, you cannot sell that. Dairy is one of the oldest industry in the world. Then so one of the oldest industry in the world. How come if you are not doing the trade of liquid? So obviously that the cattle which is giving the milk, so how you will be using it? And there are other chemicals also, particularly oil seeds and other things are also. So you cannot do the trade of the same. So Magad rulers did not paid any heed to this rule of the Dharma Shastra. Then another thing which was mentioned in the Dharma Shastra, that one cannot take interest on the loans given to people. Then so this is also going against the trade and business. Then so this is also going against the trade and business, and that's how trade and business. So that's how this particular Magad rulers did not pay heed to any of these rules which were mentioned in Dharma Shastra and which was going against their trade and commerce. So they only operated according to that what is beneficial to their trade and commerce, and that's how they became powerful. So this is what I mean to say by that Magad rulers were unorthodox and enterprising. Though we will be summing it up in 2 words, but the meaning was this large. So the explanation part I'm not dictating. I hope you have understood. If you wanted to jot down, you can do, but not everything can be dictated. So please write. First you write Magad capital Rajagriha. Magad capital Rajagriha was strategically located. Magad capital Rajagriha was strategically located. Strategically located. It was surrounded by 5 mountains. It was surrounded by 5 mountains. 5 mountains, which in turn provided or safeguarded, which in turn safeguarded the capital. Safeguarded the capital. You know that reforms are something which are not a popular decisions. No particular government in India must have kind of come up with a reform which has been popular among the masses. Then, so reform are never popular. Many a times that these reforms, that under the reforms that many such kind of that negative impacts are also happened, but most of the time that some bold reforms needs thumping majority in the parliament, And one of the biggest reform this country has seen was at the time of the Manmohan Singh and then PV Narasimha Rao when he was the finance minister, and then PV Narasimha Rao, that was the LPG. Then, so LPG, I hope you understand that privatization, globalization, these all kind of things. So what happened? So this was the biggest reform. It was very unpopular at that point of time. Very unpopular at that point of time. People were so wary of the what is going to happen, and moreover, there were so many theories which were kind of circulated at this point of time. But I would request you guys, since that everybody has become so political at this point of time, and not just the political, my question to you, that you all guys, I'm just telling you this thing, why so? Because uh, I'm there in this institute from last 8 years. It's almost 8 years. And I have huge number of the students who studied over here in the classes, and now their numbers are there, and I do see their messages and then their post sometimes, and sometimes it seems to me I'm very disappointed with the response, that nowadays people have embarked on the journey to educate themselves from the social media and follow the herd phenomena. I hope you know what is herd phenomena, that you are becoming a kind of a sheep, that if a sheep is falling from the cliff, so you all will also follow from the cliff. And uh, being a UPSC aspirant, you guys need to be mature before posting anything, or before posting any such post of the people who are in the Bollywood. You know why they are in the Bollywood? They do have the face to represent that, to be there in the Bollywood then, and from all the sections of the Bollywood. But if they did had little bit of mind, so they would have been some other place then. So their tweets and their posts are not a mark of symbol of the intellectualism, and you don't need to circulate it. Then if you are circulating it, it means that जितनी भी पढ़ाई की तुमने यूपीएससी के प्रिपरेशन में सब बर्बाद है, ठीक है? So this is a common expectation, my expectation with you all guys, that you are not only reading it over here, studying it over here, but you are making yourself intellectually sound then, so that it's just one aspect of this coaching industry. My interface with you is that you are getting knowledge from us then, but from the perspective of the UPSC examination. But at the same point of time, it's also a lifetime asset for you, that if you apply your mind and what kind of traits you have acquired during the coaching, so apply your mind and analyze each and every situation in the country, in your life, rather than just following the social media, rather than just posting somebody else's tweet, and rather than putting your peace of mind as a kind of a crap on the social media. You need to behave little bit, not little bit. You are a mature person, and then you need to behave maturely. So I have come across many such posts of the people, and particularly the students whom I believe to be bright, but nowadays it seems to me that they are just a part of the crowd. They are not apart from the crowd. So I would try that I would like to say to you, request to you, educate yourself in any such law which government is bringing, anybody is bringing, from all the aspects, not from the perspective of one side, but from all the sides. And let me tell you, yes, reform has both the sides, that it's only the future which will tell that reforms, how successful reforms would be there. But reforms, they are risky, little bit of risky, but at the same point of time, they give you hope that something will change, because it is the law of the nature that one that doesn't changes become extinct. Then, so if you're not ready for the reforms, and moreover, at this point of time, this is a reform. Let me tell you that this is a reform, that farm bills are reform. What is happening in the country, that is very unfortunate, then unfortunate, and that even the term farmer which has been used right now, it doesn't apply that yes, farmers are affected, but not all India farmers. Not everybody is affected. Then, so I would request, I will not indulge into this thing. If I would get any such discussion topic in the current affairs, to do that, to have a larger discussion on this thing, so I will bring all the things on the plate related to that what is the voice of the opposition, and particularly farmers, not the opposition parties. What are their concerns, and then what are the good things about the policy, farm laws, then, and how it is spiraling down into a negative zone. That is very unfortunate. Then, so that is very unfortunate. So I would request you guys, since we cannot remain untouched with what all things are happening in and around us, so we cannot remain untouched. So I will say, request to you, educate yourself from all the areas, then that all the places, that listen to the grievances, that what are the real grievances of the, and in reality that what are the real grievances of the farmers. On the other hand, what are the good things which are proposed in the farm bills. It is not like that entire bills can be repealed, and there must be accommodation from both the sides. So since I'm not entitled to talk about this, so I will not indulge into this then, but let's write this part. But this is my request. I was very much saddened by the post of some of my students, which I expected to be mature then. So that's what I am sharing with you, that please don't be a social media freak or Instagram freak or Facebook freak. Rather, educate yourself. You are intellectual. You all are guys are very intelligent, and try to be intelligent. Try to stand little bit different from the crowd. So let's mention, so Rajagriha was strategically located. Now, second you write that Magad rulers used the abundant river channels. Magad rulers used the abundant river channels for trade and commerce. Abundant river channels for trade and commerce. Then, next you write, Magad was densely forested. Magad was densely forested. Magad was densely forested, which provided good quality timber. Which provided good quality timber. Then next you write after this, which provided good quality timber. Magad had huge reservoir of iron. Magad had huge reservoir of iron with which they created good quality of tools. With which they created good quality of tools and maintained a very strong army. And then the last one you write, maintained a very strong army, full stop. And the last reason you write, Magad rulers were unorthodox and enterprising in nature. Unorthodox and enterprising in nature. Unorthodox and enterprising in nature. Then, so this is about that, how Magad became most powerful. After the break, we'll be starting with the very first dynasty, which we are going to discuss in the Magad, Haryanka dynasty. So Haryanka and then other dynasty which will follow. So please continue with the break. So please look at this particular Magad history we are going to start. And in Magad history, the first dynasty which I am going to talk about, Haryanka dynasty. So Haryanka dynasty, and this Haryanka dynasty was established 554 BC and was there till 412 BC. So 554 to 412 BC. Now, The initial ruler of this Haryanka dynasty, his name was Bimbisar. The founder of this dynasty in Magad was Bimbisar, and his reign 554 to 492. So Bimbisar was the founder of the Haryanka dynasty, and when Bimbisar came to power, so we need to know that what all kind of policies he initiated when he came to power. So first of all, that Bimbisar initially when he wanted to expand his kingdom, so he used the military strategies whereby the very first, that very in the initial territory which he annexed, or initial Mahajanpad which he annexed, was the Ang Mahajanpad. So he annexed Ang Mahajanpad militarily. Then so he annexed Ang Mahajanpad militarily, but at the same point of time, Bimbisar was also of the view that he cannot increase his power beyond a point if he don't have strong matrimonial alliances. Then, so Bimbisar followed the policy of the matrimonial alliance, and going by this policy of the matrimonial alliance, he made alliances with the three very powerful kingdoms. Then, so three very powerful areas. And these three powerful areas and the name of those ladies also I'm mentioning. So he made these alliances, matrimonial alliances with Kasi, Lichavi and Madra. These three places, and from these three places he married three ladies then. So one from Kasi, one Lichavi, another from Madra. So please write few words. Bimbisar was founder of Haryanka dynasty in Magad. Bimbisar was founder of Haryanka dynasty in Magad. Then you write, to increase his power and authority, he followed the policy of matrimonial alliance. First you write that matrimonial alliance and then we'll move to the militarily. So policy of matrimonial alliance whereby he married Mahakoshal Devi of Kasi, then Chellana of Lichavi, and Khema from Madra. Madra is particularly the Punjab area. Lichavi, the Bihar area, particularly the northern Bihar, Vaishali, and then this Kasi, you know that, Varanasi. So he married these three ladies, Mahakosal Devi from Kasi, Chellana from Lichavi, and Khema from Madra. Then Madra. Then further you mention, after full stop, following the policy of military annexation, he annexed the Mahajanpad of Ang. And placed it under his son Ajat Shatru. Then now listen. So there was, at this point of time, there was one contemporary and one very powerful Mahajanpad, and area wise also it was a very large Mahajanpad, that was the Mahajanpad of the Avanti. So the name of the ruler of the Avanti was Chanda Pradyot. Now what happened, that at this point of time there was no good relation between the Avanti and Magad, and moreover there was one opportunity. What was this opportunity? That the Avanti ruler Chanda Pradyot, he fell ill, In fact, he was suffering from the jaundice. So when he was suffering from the jaundice, so it was an opportunity before Bimbisar that he can go with his army and then he can annex the parts of the Avanti. But he did not did so. In fact, what he did, that there was a one very famous physician in his court. The name of this physician was Jivak. Then, so rather than annexing or marching on the Avanti, he sent his physician Jivak to the Avanti court, and Jivak was successful in treating Chandapradyota of the Avanti. He cured him from the jaundice, and that's how friendly relations developed between the Bimbisar and Avanti. So you write that he sent his famous physician Jivak to Avanti. He sent his famous physician Jivak to Avanti to treat Chand Pradyot, who was suffering from jaundice. To treat Chand Pradyot, who was suffering from jaundice. Full stop. As such, friendly relation developed between Avanti and Magad. Now, another information, that Bimbisar was the contemporary of the Buddha. So Buddha, by his time, he slowly became very popular, and then in fact that there were some instances where Buddha had meetings with the Bimbisar also. So many a times I'll say UPSC के paper में, I think that in the prelims paper, and moreover there are many other exams conducted by the UPSC, they have asked this question. Then, so the rulers who were contemporary of the Buddha, so it is that Ajatashatru, obviously he is son of the Bimbisar, so he was the one, and then the Bimbisar, so they were the contemporary of the Buddha. So you can write this information that Bimbisar was contemporary of Buddha, and he respected Buddha a lot. Then, so there was this respect relation between the Buddha and then Bimbisar, even Ajatashatru also. So this is one aspect that is there. Now, when it comes to this particular person Bimbisar, so how many years he ruled? 554 to 492. How many years are there? 492, not 492, sorry, 62 years are there. Then, so 62 years he was a ruler. So 62 year is a very kind of a very long duration. बहुत लोगों के तो इतने life नहीं होते हैं. Then, so 62 years he was a ruler, and in fact that he was not abdicating the throne. So finally, at this moment, since his son Ajatashatru, he has his own aspirations, and since the father was not abdicating the throne in the favor of anybody, so what he did, that he assassinated his own father. Ajatashatru assassinated Bimbisar, and after assassinating, he became the next ruler in 492. Then, so in 492, and since Ajatashatru came to power after assassinating his father, so some acrimonious relation developed with his maternal uncles. Then, so these maternal uncles were these two, that Mahakosal and this area. So that Kasi and Lichavi, which Kasi and Lichavi, acrimonious relation developed between the Ajatashatru and the rulers of this area. Mahakosal Devi, the name of the ruler was Prasenjit, and then Lichavi area, Chetak. So what happened on this question, that this acrimonious relation, Ajatashatru had to fight with the Kasi and Lichavi. So while in the course of the war, there was kind of agreement between the Kasi ruler Prasenjit and Ajatashatru, but there was, as such, there was no agreement between the Lichavi and Ajatashatru. So Ajatashatru, what he did, he completely destroyed the capital of Lichavi, Vaishali. So you write next thing as a heading, Ajatashatru and his time. Ajatashatru 492 to 60. 492 to 460. Please mention, he came to power after assassinating Bimbisar. After assassinating Bimbisar. Then you write, after which his authority was challenged by Kasi and Lichavi rulers. His authority was challenged by Kasi and Lichavi rulers. Kasi and Lichavi rulers. Full stop. Kasi and Lichavi rulers. Then after that you mention, he had to wage a fight. With Kasi and Lichavi. Then you write, in the course of war, there was agreement between Kasi ruler Prasenjit and Ajatashatru. Kasi ruler Prasenjit and Ajatashatru. But not with Lichavi. Full stop. Then further you mention, but not with Lichavi. Then further you mention, Ajatashatru completely destroyed the capital of Lichavi, Vaishali. Now I know that you will be thinking that earlier when we were writing Mahajanpad, so there I mentioned that capital of the Vajji was Vaishali. So let me explain it further, that this Vaishali, which was the capital of Lichavi, it was also the capital of Vajji, because Vajji was a Mahajanpad, and Vajji was a kind of a Mahajanpad which included 8 confederacies. So 8 confederacies. So in this 8 confederacy, one was the Lichavi. So one was the Lichavi, not the one, but the strongest was the Lichavi. So basically this overall capital of this 8 confederacy was the Vaishali, and then moreover it was also the capital of the one of the confederacy, that is Lichavi, and it was also the capital of the Lichavi. So I hope you understood. Now you write, so he completely destroyed the city of Vaishali. Then further you mention, in this war against Lichavi, Ajatashatru used 2 innovative war engines. So I'm creating these 2 innovative war engines. First you write, first one, the name of the first war engine was Ratha Musala. So Ratha Musala, if you go by the diagram of the same, so it was a kind of a Ratha. Then I hope you know what is Ratha, chariot. So generally what used to be there on the chariot, that there used to be a flag on chariot, then so chariot, and then with this chariot, what was there? So one moving mace, one was revolving mace was attached to this chariot. So revolving mace was attached to this chariot. This is the Ratha Musal. This is Musal, that mace, and then it was revolving. It was revolving, as you have seen in the movie Bahubali, that they replaced this with the concept of the sword. Then, so in the original Ajatashatru scheme, it was a mace, but in movie they changed it to the sword. Then, so this is the Ratha Musal. Then Ratha Musal, and then there was another innovative war engine which he used, Mahashil Kantak. Mahashil Kantak. And what was this Mahashil Kantak? It was a flexible platform. Then, so it was a flexible platform with which one rope is there, and this rope was used for, flexible rope was there. So this is a flexible rope, and this rope was used for catapulting stone. So it was used for catapulting stones on enemy. So you know that these kind of historical things, they are often used in the movies also, and the same instance, both the instances are there in your very favorite movie of the Bahubali. Then, so please write that he used two innovative war engines, Ratha Musal. So in front of the Ratha Musal you write Ratha Musal, a revolving mace, M-A-C-E, a revolving mace was attached to a chariot. Revolving mace was attached to a chariot. And Mahashil Kantak, second you write Mahashil Kantak. It was a flexible platform. Mahashil Kantak was a flexible platform to catapult stones, obviously on enemies. Then, so this is about that the two innovative war engines. Now listen, since Ajatashatru was also the contemporary of the Buddha, and he also respected Buddha, so during his tenure only, that Ajatashatru's tenure only, Buddha's death happened in 483 BC at the place called Kushinagar. Then, so Buddha's death happened, and after the death of the Buddha, the followers of the Buddha, they persuaded Ajatashatru, and as such, the very first Buddhist council was convened by Ajatashatru in his capital city of the Rajagriha in 483 BC itself, same year in which Buddha died. So the development of this council we'll be seeing in the Buddhism. But here, for the time being, you write the historical detail. So you write that Ajatashatru was also contemporary of Buddha. Ajatashatru was also contemporary of Buddha and had huge respect for Buddha. Full stop. In 483 BC, after the death of Buddha, generally we don't write death of Buddha. It's not a right term to be written in the Buddhism. Then, since we are writing just for the understanding, so I'm using the term death. But Buddha's death in the Buddhism is considered as Mahaparinirvana. Then, so the name for the Buddha's death is the Mahaparinirvana. Okay? So whenever we will be reading Buddhism, so there I'll be using the term Mahaparinirvana, but here since we are writing for the first time, so I'm using the term death. But in Buddhism, death word is not used for the Buddha. So you mentioned after the death of the Buddha, followers follow, no, after the death of the Buddha, Ajat convened, Ajat convened first Buddhist council, first Buddhist council at Rajagriha, Rajagriha, at Rajagriha, Rajagriha in 483 BC. So, chalo, no, I know that you guys can ask this question. There is no harm in this. See, that many a times I do say कि हमें कोर्स के अकॉर्डिंग चलना चाहिए, बस इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि your enthusiasm, your big kind of that curbing. You must ask. I am not imposing such kind of conditions on you that ये सब important नहीं है मत पूछो, ऐसा नहीं है, ठीक है? Because it is when you are interested in history तभी तो याद करोगे. So let me tell you that this question. So who Ajatashatru was son from which wife? So in fact, you guys have asked very good question. He was the son of the Chellana, Licchavi. And you see that he was the son of the Chellana, Licchavi, and he was most anti to his own maternal uncle, Chetak. The name was the Chetak, the ruler of the Licchavi, Chetak. So, and he destroyed his own mother's place. वो बोलते ना कि माँ का मायका. Then, so his own mother's place, Vaishali. So, Ajat and what was agreement? चलो ये भी बता देता हूँ. What was agreement between Prasenjit and Kasi? So agreement what happened that Prasenjit accepted the supremacy of Ajatashatru, that he will not be revolting further, and moreover, since once he has revolted, so Prasenjit had to marry his daughter with Ajatashatru. Then, so Prasenjit gave hand of his daughter to Ajatashatru. On the other hand, since the marriage kind of thing, maybe that incest was not there at that point of time. I hope you know the word incest, because when he is marrying his own uncle's daughter, so that will amount to incest. So his own maternal uncle, so he destroyed the Chetak's rule at over here in Licchavi, and moreover, he destructed the capital of his own maternal uncle, Chetak. Then, so that was there. But there was no issue with the Madra, and he was not son of the Khema. Okay? So he was not son of the Khema. So this is what happened at this place. Then, so at this place. Now, Ajatashatru, so Buddhist council. Then, so Buddhist council he convened. Details, as I said to you, I'll be covering over there in the Buddhism. But now come to another decision which was taken by, important decision which was taken by Ajatashatru. He decided to shift capital of the Magad from Rajagriha to Pataliputra, that is Patna, present day Patna. So he decided to shift the capital from Rajagriha to Patna, but before he can do so, he died. Then, so before he can do so, he died, and this particular work of the Ajatashatru was completed by the next successor, Udain. So please write that Ajatashatru, before his death, decided to shift capital, of Magad, from Rajagriha to Pataliputra. From Rajagriha to Pataliputra. From Rajagriha to Pataliputra. Full stop. Then you mention he died in 460 BC. He died in 460 BC, and then the next ruler I need to mention from this dynasty. So his name was Udain. Udain. So Udain was 460. to 440. It's not exact period, but rough period. 460 he came to power. So Udain was the one who constructed the beautiful city of Patliputra. बस इतना ही लिखना है. Then, so you write, the next successor Udain constructed the beautiful city of Patliputra. Constructed the beautiful city of Patliputra. Constructed the beautiful city of Patliputra. Then, the last information about this dynasty, that the last ruler of this dynasty, his name was Nagadasak. Then, and Nagadasak was assassinated by one of his own minister whose name was Shishunag, and that's how Shishunaga dynasty came to picture in the Magad. Then, so you write, the last ruler of Haryanka, Nagadasak was assassinated by one of his minister Shishunag. You see that, what a beautiful name, Nagadasak. Then नाग जो डसता हो, शिशु नाग, छोटा नाग, ठीक है, वेरी स्मॉल नाग. सो शिशु नाग ने नागदासक को डस लिया. So this is my funny way of remembering this thing, that Shishunag ne Nagdasak ko डस लिया. So Shishunag, so assassinated by one of his minister Shishunag, who established Shishunag dynasty in Magad. Who established Shishunag dynasty in Magad. Shishunag dynasty 412 to 344 BC. Now the very first ruler was the Shishunag himself, and उसी के नाम पे dynasty भी है. So Shishunag, when he came to power, so only there are few decisions that we need to mention. So you remember that there was a friendly relation between the Avanti and Magad. But at this point of time, Shishunag completely annexed the Avanti. So he completely annexed the Avanti, and he also decided to shift capital at this point of time, capital from Patliputra to Vaishali. Then, so first, what was listen to if Magad is the story, so the initial capital was the Rajagriha, then it changed to Patliputra, and then at this point of time it is changing to Vaishali, but after some point of time, again it will come back to the Patliputra. So please write, Shishunag completely annexed the Mahajanpad of Avanti. Then further you mention Mahajanpad of Avanti. He also decided to shift capital. From Vaishali to Patliputra. Then you write, after his death, Kalashok, became the next emperor. Now listen a little bit about the Kalashok. So Kalashok, in fact, he is the last ruler of the Shishunaga dynasty. So last ruler of the Shishunaga dynasty, and moreover, very often he was also known with some other names also. Like one name popular for him was the Kakavardlan. But when it comes to the Kalashok's rule, so there is one such important thing which happened during his regime, and that is in 383 BC, it was Kalashok who convened the second Buddhist council after 100 years. Then so after 100 years, the first council has happened. First council 483 BC and second council 383 BC. So this council was convened at Vaishali. Then so since Vaishali was the capital, so it was convened at Vaishali. And I didn't told you that what was developed in the first council. So let me tell you, लिखना नहीं क्योंकि बुद्धिज्म में लिखेंगे. In the first council, which was convened under Ajatashatru, the important books of the Buddhism were written. For example, Sutta Pitaka and Vinaya Pitaka. But in this council, there was a division in the Buddhism. Then, so division, informal division in the Buddhism happened at this point of time. So I'll mention that what was the name of this division later on. Then, but this is the development which happened at this point of time. So 383 BC, Vaishali, second Buddhist council was convened. Then after this particular episode, that he continued for a long time, that 383 to 444, that 344, it's a long time. But this particular person, Kalasok, he was assassinated by a person whose name was Mahapadmanand. Let's listen to the little bit of story related to Mahapadmanand. It is, as per the historical details, it is said that Mahapadmanand was none but the son of the Kalasok only. And it is also said that Mahapadmanand was born out of a extramarital affair. So Kalasok had an extramarital affair with the one lady called as the Padma. Then, so one lady called as the Padma, and then it is also said that she was a Shudra lady. Then, so she was a Shudra lady. So this son was born, and then when Kalasok refused to recognize Mahapadmanand as his son, so this Mahapadmanand decided to assassinate Kalasok, and that's how he eliminated Mahapadmanand. Mahapadmanand eliminated Kalasok and established Nanda dynasty in the Magad. Then, so Nanda dynasty in the Magad, and Nandas identify themselves as the Shudra. Then, since Kalasok was a Kshatriya, but since he didn't accept it, so they identify themselves as the Shudra. And moreover, it was the first non-Kshatriya dynasty in the Magad. So please write that during the tenure of Kalasok, second Buddhist council, second Buddhist council was convened in 383 BC. In 383 BC at Vaishali. Full stop. In which informal division of Buddhism happened. Full stop. Then further you mention, Kalasok was assassinated by a person, Mahapadmanand. Kalasok was assassinated by a person, Mahapadmanand, who established Nanda dynasty in the Magad, in 344 BC. Nanda dynasty in the Magad in 344 BC. Full stop. It was first non-Kshatriya. Dynasty of Magad. It was first non-Kshatriya dynasty of Magad. So I'll be stopping class over here. That Nanda dynasty we'll be covering in the next class, and very importantly that Mauryas. So next class we are going to cover Nanda dynasty and then the Mauryas also. After the Mauryas we'll continue with the post-Maurya age. So hopefully that these all topics we are going to cover, that Maurya also, post-Maurya also in the next class, and then after next class is the 6th class, so 7th class is the Gupta and then post-Gupta period. Chalo, that in fact that little bit late we are, but not that too late then. So ho jayega time se. I hope that that whatever number of classes that has been given to me. So accordingly, we will be able to complete the syllabus. So thank you for today. And I don't know that which particular day I have the class. Let's see that what's there in the schedule. If at all there is any class in this week, so that's fine. So thank you for today. Meet you whenever the class would be there.